Spring is here, and that means tulip time. On this episode of Garden Time, we pay a visit to the fields of the Wooden Shoe Tulip Fest in Woodburn, Oregon, and preview their upcoming festival. We'll talk with owner Barb Iverson about the history of the fest and get some tips on growing tulips in your garden. All coming up next on Garden Time. Garden Time is brought to you by Capital Subaru in Salem, Oregon.
Here at Capital Subaru, we are family. From you, our customers, our coworkers, and even our actual family members work here. This is my son, Casey. We're generations ahead of the competition, and we're always working to keep you and your family moving.
We're here for you. We make it easy to join our Capital Subaru family.
All the support you need, from sales and financing to service and parts. We'll be here for you for generations to come.
And generations after that.
I'm Blake.
And I'm Casey. We make it easy to join our Capital Subaru family.
Where it's
your way on the Parkway.
Welcome to the Garden Time Podcast. We're based in the Pacific Northwest of the United States in a Zone 8 region. This zone deals with plants that can survive in 10 degrees Fahrenheit or warmer. I'm producer Jeff Gustin with your hosts Judy Elaruzo and Ryan Seeley. And welcome to Garden Time. Today we are at the Wooden Shoe Tulip Farm and we are talking with Barb Iverson. Wooden Shoe has been around the Pacific Northwest in the Willamette Valley for decades. You guys have had a tulip festival, and people mark the beginning of the growing season by your festival. It's kind of cool. Have you ever thought about that? That people are so anxious for color that they look forward to your festival.
Well, I know we try to create traditions, but you make me sound really old.
Started by folks and the rest of the family. So, how many years has it been? And
so this is our 39th annual festival. So festival. We actually started 41 years ago.
Wow.
So, but actually we started before that because we started growing tulips in the mid-'70s. And we grew for a guy in Terre Haute, Indiana. And he would come out to the Willamette Valley because our season is traditionally 2 weeks ahead of Holland. So he could grow the tulips out here and take them back to Terre Haute and force them for Christmas. So we kind of had a corner on the market. Because the flower in the tulip is actually formed in August. So when you cut a bulb in half in August, you can actually make out all the flower parts.
Really?
That's called the G stage.
That is cool.
So that's why he grew in this area. And actually, Tofty Farms in Canby, they were growing tulips, and they didn't want to grow tulips anymore. And we were, family friends. And so we said, yeah, we'd grow. So that was in the mid-'70s, and that's when we started growing tulips.
Wow. And it's just amazing because it's grown so much over the years. And you guys, not only do tulips, you do other bulbs as well. But the festival is all about tulips, and it roughly goes about 6 weeks, right? Or sometimes longer.
Right. The festival is all about tulips. So the gentleman that we grew for, when he retired, we bought his bulbs, and we went into the bulb sales, wholesale bulb business, and that's a tough business. So it wasn't going very well, so my sister, myself, 3 sister-in-laws, and my younger brother started a little company called the Wooden Shoe Bulb Company. And we went to garden shows. We take a sheet of paper, and the first 2 years we went to the first Yard Garden and Patio Show and the Portland Home and Garden Show, all of those, and it didn't go very well. So you take a sheet of paper, and it really isn't so exciting. And we had a couple neighbors that kept saying, you got to open your field. Open your field to the public. They'd love to come out here. And we're like, why would somebody want to come and see a crop? It's just a crop. Because we're farm kids. We're farm kids, it's a crop. And we had a field that was going to be, we're coming up on Easter. And we were going to be in full bloom for Easter. We thought, okay, let's give this a try. So we went to the Statesman Journal, and we took out a little ad that said, come for the weekend and see the tulips. And we took a wheelbarrow out there, and we made a little PVC greenhouse. I remember bending it over and putting it in the ground. And we went out and picked some tulips and just put them in the wheelbarrow and some water and sold them for $1 a bunch. And that weekend, we had a traffic jam.
Wow.
And the little road that we were on, granted, is like 8 feet wide.
Right,
so
right.
it's tight. I mean, it's easy to have a traffic jam there. But we thought, maybe there is something. Maybe there's something here that people do want to see. And that was the beginning. We rotate fields, of course, because you need to rotate the fields. And so the next 3 years we were in fields up the road that we had rented. and we realized that traffic was going to be an issue that we needed to deal with, and safety. And so then we kind of came back to where we are today. And the rhododendrons that we were that we were growing in this area, that whole market was changing. So we were getting out of the rhododendron market, and it kind of set us up for this rotation that we could do with our tulips. So really that all worked out well.
So those early years, how many acres of tulips were you guys growing?
Well,
Because you were mentioning rotating fields, and you have pretty good sized fields here.
Yeah, we still had, I mean, remember the first year we probably had only 3-4 acres. I mean, they were smaller fields at that time. And then they grew as we got into it. But it's interesting to see how the varieties have changed over the years. So we've had varieties, we used to grow a lot of Darwin varieties. Most of those have died out on us. And a lot of Triumphs now have taken their place, single eights. So we see a little shift that way. The
Different
single
breeding
earlies.
or something,
Different
or-
breeding. The breeding these days they do for really greenhouse production.
Oh.
So that's where the bulk of it, cut flowers and potted tulips too, but most of those are Triumph tulips, so there's a different, it's just different. And when we got into the business, there were a lot of growers up in Washington. We'd go to a Northwest Bulb Grower Association, and there'd be like, 30 growers in the room, and we just saw this steady decline of growers as the market shifted, that they couldn't compete anymore. The market changed,
Right.
and even for us, we got into the cut flower business, and our success really didn't start until we focused on our agritourism.
Yeah.
Inviting people out to our tulip festival was a game changer for us.
Yeah, so you had to become marketers and advertisers and that whole other, I don't know how to do
whole
that.
different, you
I'm
got out of the
learning.
wholesale and you get into
Sure.
direct, and it's more rewarding too.
Yeah,
it's
it's kinda
really
fun,
rewarding.
sure.
It's fun.
Is it rewarding?
It is, it is.
On that Saturday when you have cars down the street?
We don't, that's one of the things with COVID we have found though. As horrible as that was, and we were 3 days from opening that year in 2020, and we shut down for the season. But when we brought the festival back, we went to time ticketing. And for us, that's a game changer because the customer experience coming out here, we limit the number of people that come in. We don't have the lineup of traffic anymore. We don't have to do a traffic management plan with the state or the county. People can drive right in. And the whole experience is so much better.
And I think, we were talking earlier before we started recording, it seems to be where a lot of industries are going. I know the Iris Farm is doing it too. And it really actually creates a better experience for people coming out without having a horde of people there. And you're getting the best experience. Yes, it's costing you a couple of dollars, but you're out here, essentially, you have the fields with a much smaller group of people.
Well, I can tell you when they come in and they haven't sat in traffic for 2 hours with the kids crying in the back and the husband pissed off, why do I have to come out here? It's a better experience for everybody.
There's a lot more space.
They do. They can just drive in. Oh, there's no traffic. It's not. And our neighbors really appreciate it too. It's really much better.
So you started out, you said like 3 or 4 acres. So what are you up to?
We're
up
close to
now?
40, between 35, right in that area. Because we want to be known for the wow, that experience, to come out and walk through a farm and experience the beauty. It's just unlike anything else. I mean, where can you do that? You can go to the city park, you can go to the zoo, you can go, the Rose Gardens, Oregon Garden, things like that. But to go out on somebody's farm and walk through the field and see the beauty, and especially when Mount Hood's in all its glory, and it's just, there's nothing like it.
Right, because like you said, when you first pull in, where you're situated here in the Willamette Valley, it's these big open rolling hills and fields with the background of Mount Hood and the Cascade Range and the foothills and the snow-covered mountains, and then these beautiful, massive tulip fields full of color with that in the background. It doesn't get much better.
No, it really doesn't. We used to have a side story. We used to have a harpist that came out and played, and my aunt, she was getting up there a little bit, and we took her out in the gator, and they're playing the harp and the mountains and the beauty, and she said, "This is as close as I'm ever going to get to heaven." Well, and I hope it's not, but
But even, the people sitting in the fields painting.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Right. I mean, it is a picture when
It's-
you come out here.
It is. And that perfect shot of, your kids or, I have one that I use when I give talks. And my kids, there's one of those big wooden shoes. And Emily's like 4 and the other 2.5 or something. And I wanted that perfect picture of them with the field in the background sitting on that wooden shoe. And you'd think I could get them to all cooperate and smile. They were and grumpy and crying and all of that. And I just remember, I go back there when I see that picture, how they're lucky to live to adulthood. But they recreated that picture a couple of years ago. And it's my favorite picture because it just takes me back to that moment in time when, and relive it when they were that age. And yeah.
But those
but-
are iconic photos. It's like Santa Claus pictures in
Yes.
everybody's album. So your
Exactly.
family is like introducing it to all the other families, which is so cool. And then plus, with all the influx of people come here, they don't live in farms. They don't live in rural areas. They live in cities. And so to come and experience this, it is really eye-opening.
Well, and tulip, the universal appeal of flowers in general. I mean, pre-COVID, we'd put up the map. So we had a world map, we had a United States map, and an Oregon map. Of course, Portland would be just mounded. But the United States map, it would take us about 1 week to hit all 50 states.
Wow.
Really?
It's just, it's
amazing.
really amazing. But what was even more amazing to me was the world map. And, we hit about 140 countries. That would be pinned. And you'd watch somebody pinning, a country somewhere obscure, and you'd go talk to them. Is that really where you're from? You're just pinning that. And it would be. It really is a universal appeal. And what's so fun is everybody's so happy. It's just, you can walk through the field, you don't know what country you're in, you hear all these languages, see all these different costumes, and everybody's happy. It is just unlike anything else. I love it.
So when you first started bulbs, like you said, you were a grower, you're a farmer.
Yeah.
Right. Did you ever think you would get to the point where you've turned it so much that it's this agritourism that people from all over the world are coming to see what you're growing?
I had no idea, but again, it's so rewarding. I was figuring, this is our 39th annual festival this year, and you look at numbers over the years and how many people have come in, and I figure 3.5 to 4 million people have walked on this farm and enjoyed the beauty that we create here, and it's just, how it's just a rewarding.
Right.
Yeah,
absolutely.
definitely. Yeah.
What a
There's a lot of
family-
work to put it in.
What a family legacy. I remember seeing your folks walking through the
Yeah.
fields
Oh, they loved
when I
it.
first started coming out
Right. Yeah.
and talking about your children. This is something that your family takes very much a lot of deep pride in doing
really
this
do.
festival. I know how hard it was during COVID that you guys couldn't open the fields. And it wasn't a money issue. It was like, part of your heart was ripped out
Yeah.
for not seeing, people that come every year, that kind of thing. So obviously the festival's going to go on.
It is.
We're a little late this year, and we should address that because you have a timeline that you aim for, and because flowers are weather dependent, we've had some snow, we've had some cold weather, and this is nothing new for you guys.
No, it's not the first time we've had to delay the opening. It's probably one of the later openings that we've ever had. It used to be we went March 20th to April 20th when we first started the festival, and then we started, let's make sure we hit spring break because there's stuff for the kids to do. This year, though, it's a different year. It's cold. Looking at the forecast, there's not a lot of warm weather coming, and it's just going to be a delayed opening. And the thing is that we get asked, will you extend it? Tell me what the weather's going to be in April. Are we going to hit a 90-degree day, or is it going to be 60 all month?
Right.
We don't know. I think in 39 years we've gone twice to Mother's Day.
Yeah.
So it does happen, but do we know now?
I
It's hard to
remember
say.
doing the weekly TV show. We would come out at the very beginning of the festival, but then we'd always make a trip back out later in the festival because depending on the weather, sometimes you were extending for a week.
Yeah.
And sometimes you're like going, the heat is hit, we're going really fast, you got to come out now.
Yeah.
And so it's really hard to tell. That's why the website is so important.
Right, we do that field update, that field report on our website, and our Facebook, Instagram as well. We keep everybody posted. It's a little trickier now that we're all on online ticketing, So, you're trying to get your ticket to come out, but
Right.
normally that second week of April is a kind of a prime spot from there to later in April. It's just hard to say. We never know.
And the website is
Woodenshoe.com.
woodenshoe.com. Very easy to get
Yeah.
to.
But the tulips are, it's not like they're all coming on all at,
Oh,
all
no,
at
no,
once
they're
and then
not.
blooming out. And
Well,
killing.
because we have the
Right.
different categories of tulips. There's 13 categories of tulips. So you have the single earlies, the triumphs, the Darwins, the single lates, all the others. So, we'll start with the single earlies and the Fostriana. They'll start blooming, and it kind of moves into the Darwins and the triumphs, and then the single lates. They're another week away.
Right.
So, we do get a spread of bloom. So when you say peak bloom, yeah, there's a time when it's worth coming out, but we're not 100% in bloom because the early ones might be already finished blooming and the late ones may have not started.
You're never
blooming.
going to be
Right,
100%
no,
in
100%.
bloom.
Right.
But I think that's a great tip for gardeners, that you should have all these different kinds in your landscape so that you can enjoy them for so many weeks. I mean,
Exactly.
how many weeks really would that
You can do
total?
about 6 weeks.
Wow.
Easy. And you can do more than that because some of the species ones you can get to bloom. We had one that used to bloom like the end of February, and then you get into some of the single lates and they're almost May.
Yeah, that would be so beautiful at your home, though, to take
Yeah.
it home, take those memories home, which is so wonderful. I love when I see people taking, the potted tulips home with them because it's a great souvenir.
It
and
is
then to
al-
order.
although last year we got asked it, and every few years we always get this question when they buy their cut flowers. So I just take these and put them in the ground.
Oh,
So
yeah.
there's
A little education.
now a little education, but you
It's
can
not
buy
the silk flowers that you just bring up in the craft
these. You
store.
could, I
Yeah,
suppose.
now, the silk flowers here in the gift shop, you can
You could do that.
But you mentioned earlier one and done, and we've talked about this before. People will show up in August.
Mm-hmm.
They'll see the pictures of the fields. You guys have a photo contest every year where amateurs and visitors can submit their photos. And people will show up and say, where are the blooms in August? And they're not going to be here in August.
No, they're not going to be here in August. But we look as a family, and as we pass the farm on to the next generation, what they're looking at, and I mean they're looking at, okay, maybe we should have flowers in August, and maybe we do it with other flowers and not tulips. So look for something in the future as far as a flower festival of some sort.
So
Always thinking.
Yeah, outside the festival, Wooden Shoe has grown quite a bit. I mean, you guys have more. You guys now have your own wines.
We have our own
So
wine.
even if people don't make it to the festival,
You can come out here and drink.
oh yeah. But it is a wonder. I mean, you have fall events. You have stuff happening at the farm almost all the time.
Well, we work, I strong believer in giving back. So we work with a lot of nonprofits. So American Cancer Society does Relay for Life out here. As that whole thing has changed from walking the track for 24 hours, it's now they come out here for a full day, and we cap it off with a night glow, hot air balloon night glow. So those kinds of things. We work with the Alzheimer's Association. We've got the local Rotary for a mud, sweat, and barbecue. So that's a mud run as well. And look for we're looking at a mudder run with your pet. So we go through and we dig all these pits and do all this thing, and it's a lot of fun, and we get people really enjoy it, and then it's all done in one day, and it's like, maybe we should add another event. So come out with your dog and run through it with your dog. So we're tossing ideas around of other things we can do out here.
That is
Excellent.
fun. Oh, I was going to ask, so we were talking about the festival, but what can we do? I mean, we come and we look at the tulips. I mean, they're the star. But there's so many things to do. It is a full day when you're out there.
It really is. Food, so don't eat before you come out. So we're working with the food carts. One of the things, Portland's a foodie place. Oregon in general is a foodie place. People are looking for unique things. So, we've got some food carts we're working with, coming up with like new ideas. So watch our Facebook page and
Looking
Instagram for
forward.
that. We're looking for
And
some
the drink
new
that
ideas.
goes along with
Yeah.
it.
And the drink that goes along with it. Yeah, we have slushies here. We play
Right.
with the slushies. We work with Bauman's cider. Excellent cider, but we
Yeah.
make slushies out of their cider, which is really good.
Yum.
Yes.
Guess I'm going to have
Yeah,
to
come out. But so that's good, yeah.
Right.
And our wines are unusual anyway, because we've got Albarino, which is a Spanish wine. It's a little bit different, and our
Right.
Pinot, and we've got a port that's like an Australian port, a good port, not the port that the good port. It's too good sometimes.
But you had mentioned the kids. I mean, Judy brought that up. And so this is a family
Oh, yeah.
place. I mean, you can come out and you guys have, things
There's
for the
much
kids.
There's
Rides
kids
and
activities
slides
and rides and
yeah,
slides
yeah.
and stuff like that. So yeah, and we have these cows. They can just put their kid in. They're free. They're just laying around. Well, they're rolling. You can roll them around. It's like a cow cart. You put the kids in and take them around, and the kids just enjoy it. If it's raining, the kids are happy because there's plenty of mud puddles for them to play.
Well,
Mud
and
run.
and you also have vendors that come out and
We
sell
have vendors,
local
yeah.
products.
Yeah,
And,
local
and
products, and we have a line of vendors, and they just come out and look for those unique things,
Right.
things that are a little bit different. Even our gift shop, we've got a lot of unique items in here. So if you're looking for that thing for Mother's Day or I don't know, that perfect gift for somebody.
And tulips.
And tulips.
I mean, so, I mean, let's get back to the tulips. here.
Okay.
But so you can come see the fields in bloom.
Yes.
And view what you actually like.
Right.
But you're not necessarily going to have potted tulips. But if somebody wants that tulip that's in the field.
We have a catalog. So
Right.
we have a catalog. You can go online or you can order right while you're here. But you can order the bulbs and then we'll ship them to you in the fall. So yeah, we do that part. We have potted tulips you can purchase while you're out here. And you can buy cut flowers too.
How many different tulip varieties?
Are there or do we have?
have a
Because
loaded
there's
question.
thousands.
Right.
There's so many. What's interesting is some of the old varieties that we used to have are gone now. They kind of die out. And the industry has changed as a whole in Holland as well. It used to be, again, it's gone to the larger growers. This grower specializes in these two varieties. It's just a different market these days. And it's just a change that's interesting.
Do you see, is there changes in like the coloring or the shape or
No,
the,
it's the varieties.
right.
The single lates, we don't see as many single lates as we used to. It's more the production and the breeding is for the greenhouse production and the potted production, not for the homeowner. Not the parrot varieties or some of the more unusual ones that I love
Right.
are kind of hard to get.
And that's why it's nice that you're doing these and growing these here and,
Right.
and selling your
Yeah.
bulbs because you can still get some of these varieties.
Some of these we can,
that
but-
you're not going to find elsewhere.
But even that, we see a change. I mean, I see a change in the field of the varieties that we started growing with.
Yeah.
We grew Darwins, a lot of Darwins early on. And the Darwins about 20 years ago, 25 years ago for us, they went away.
Is that like a climate kind of thing? Or
I don't
soil
know.
thing,
I think
or
it's a soil thing is what I would attribute it to. Disease, that
Right.
sort of thing. And they're just, each bulb's a little bit different. Sometimes the neck's a little more open, so it's easier for the spores to get down in there. We noticed that in our greenhouse production. We saw that.
So just because I have trouble growing tulips at home, I mean,
You
the
have to plan 'em.
the experts do too.
So
that makes me feel
single
better.
earlies, triumphs. Yeah, there's certain tricks, and you can't plan. Tulips don't like wet feet.
Right.
So this year's, we really work on the drainage and the soil management with our tulips.
Right.
You got to have that drainage because if they sit in water for 24 hours, was kind of our rule of thumb, it's done. They're dead. They're gone.
Right.
They'll drown.
Now
So-
here in the Willamette Valley, it's typically been pretty good sandy loam soil for
Yeah.
growing things. Do tulips, across the United States, do they grow better here in like a Northwest kind of thing, or?
Well, of course they do.
Well, yeah, well, of course they do. But,
No,
different climates tend to have.
Well, you have to have the chilling. So, for example, I was down in Texas, and there's a couple Texas growers down there. There's one out of Austin, and there's one out of Dallas.
wow.
But they get the bulbs pre-chilled already, and they grow for it's you pick. And so the new thing right now is tulip festivals across the country.
Right.
So there's one down out of LA. There is
amazing.
one out of
Yeah.
Reno. You go back east, they're all over the place.
funny.
But it's all you pick. So,
Okay.
but for us and for me, I like the wow factor. I want to when you come out in the field, like that's something that you can't
Right.
experience anywhere
Right,
else.
right.
Rather than well, I picked those two, but I don't
Right.
want that one, so I'm going
Right.
to throw it in the
Right,
pile
right,
here.
right.
And that's in seeing the other fields, and not to disparage them
Well,
at all.
sure.
It's all a different experience.
Sure.
But I want that like this is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen in my life.
Right.
Experience.
You start getting tens of thousands of people coming through and shopping at your fields all day
It's
long.
exactly.
The experience for the next person might
Right,
not be there.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so talking about that different parts of the United States, that you ship to where they're going to grow well, your kind of tulips that you sell the bulbs.
Yeah, we sell the bulbs here. Most of our sales are local. I mean,
Okay.
they're Oregon, Washington, that area, that regional area. A lot of it's gone online.
Okay.
You know, we ship the bulbs usually late September, early October, when it's time to plant them.
To plant them.
So it works well for us.
Right, okay.
It's interesting because, a few years ago, you guys had a tulip that was Garden Time, named for our show. And I think, no. I think what it
Not
does,
anymore.
it's not anymore. In fact, I think what it does is it proves that there are newer varieties that always come out. So the Garden Time tulip was wonderful,
It was beautiful.
It was beautiful.
And that was so unique.
but
Champagne and
yeah, they came out and they baptized the
Baptized it.
flower.
I
It was
love it.
wonderful.
That was great.
But I think a lot of people forget that as hybridization gets better, you're going to get better tulips. There's much better tulips out there now than the Garden Time one. We were very proud to have it. Thank you, Barb. But it was one of those because you're also relying on getting bulbs from other hybridizers to grow.
Right.
And so you have to kind of go with sometimes what the market does. And
Exactly.
so,
And that does happen because as varieties change, as old varieties the stock kind of declines and we can't get it anymore. One that I really wish we could still get is Merry Widow. It was beautiful. It had a little white trim on the end and it was kind of a reddish color, beautiful. But the name sells. We can get one that looks just like it, but it was Gus Papendrick.
yeah.
And
That's
so
not the same
names do sell, and we see that too when you have different varieties and they look alike. And Garden Time was a great name.
It was a great name. And it's interesting because it did, in the years following, there were other tulips that came out that looked a little brighter, that looked, and it
Real
was
similar.
and it was very similar. And of course, as a grower and hybridizer, you're going to use the stronger of the flowers. And like you said, the market has now gone to cut flowers more than just, having flowers in your bed. So I think a lot of people forget that the varieties are going to change over time.
They do, and a lot of them, the hybridizers, of course, are going to go where the money is, which is the cut flower market, the potted market. Holland did a couple years ago a big campaign of dig, drop, done. And because they wanted to get people to think how easy it is to plant a bulb, and there's nothing to it. You can't really screw up a tulip when you plant it in the ground. As long as it doesn't sit in water, just dig a hole and drop it in it, and even if you plant it upside down, it'll figure out how to come up.
See, and we're going to talk about that's the second half. Second half of the podcast, we're actually going to talk about some care tips. So, having a family business like this, and I mean, you have a very large family. You have multiple, brothers, sisters, nephews, nieces, daughters, that kind of stuff. So, how big can you grow a seasonal tulip business, or wine business, or?
Well, we have some parameters. So there's like 23 nieces, nephews, my kids. Not everybody can come back. So we set some parameters years ago.
But you're essentially saying this business is not going to go away. You
It
guys,
is not
Wooden
gonna
Shoe
go
is
away.
going to be here.
Well, exactly. But we want some of the next generation back, and we've got 4 that are really dedicated, awesome people that are going to keep going forward with this.
Nice.
And so we're pretty excited.
Yeah, and I know you tried to recruit one today. Your daughter. It's like,
Well, she's back.
Yeah.
She did her college degree and then went and worked away 2 years. Last year, she traveled around the United States working at tulip festivals and then worked in upstate New York. And then she traveled to Tasmania and worked in a tulip festival in Tasmania. So, she's well-rounded, and I think I just hope we don't overwork her. That's, it's okay. I mean, we want them to be passionate and to love what they do. And
well, I think that comes through the passion of your family and the festival itself. I don't know if people understand the blood, sweat, and tears that go into holding something like this for this many years. It's incredible. So we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about some care tips and how you can make your bulbs beautiful and last for a long time. And so we're going to take a break and listen to our sponsors and our friends at Capital Subaru, and we'll be right back.
For 75 years, Al's Garden and Home has been a favorite destination of local gardeners. Starting in a small roadside fruit stand off of 99E in Woodburn by Al Biggie, Al's has grown to 4 retail locations in the Portland metro area that also includes a huge growing operation near Hubbard. To ensure that you get the highest quality, Al's grows over 80% of the plants they sell. This 4th generation family-owned business is now one of the most recognized garden centers in the country. Stop by one of our 4 locations to learn why Al's is the first stop for Northwest gardeners.
Here at Capital Subaru, we are family. From you, our customers, our coworkers, and even our actual family members work here. This is my son, Casey. We're generations ahead of the competition, and we're always working to keep you and your family moving.
We're here for you. We make it easy to join our Capital Subaru family.
All the support you need, from sales and financing to service and parts. We'll be here for you for generations to come.
And generations after that.
I'm Blake,
And I'm Casey. We make it easy to join our Capital Subaru family.
where it's
Your way on the Parkway.
Garden Palooza is back. Join us on April 1st at Bauman's Farm and Garden. See over 30 plant growers and garden vendors. There's free parking and free admission. Enter to win a garden arbor and more. Garden Palooza, Saturday, April 1st at Bauman's Farm and Garden in Woodburn. And welcome back to Garden Time. We're at Wooden Shoe Tulip Farms, and we're with Barb Iverson, and they are known for 39 years of having the Wooden Shoe Tulip Fest, and we've had the pleasure of coming out here many times, and mentioned earlier that there was a tulip named Garden Time for the show, which now has better offspring out there, so, which is fine. But I wanted to kind of focus the second part of the podcast on tips. So you sell the bulbs, you sell them in pots, and people go home and sometimes they don't have the best success. Let's start with the soil. What kind of soil is the best for growing tulips?
Well, tulips are a little finicky at times, so good drainage. That's the most important with tulips. You know, if they sit in water at all, if they sit over 24 hours in water, they drown. So you're gonna lose them. So good drainage is the best part. Rodents, you know, they love tulips. We've seen it time and time again where either the mice come in, the voles come in, they eat the bulb, or we had time in our barn when we were forcing tulips that the mice, there were so many bulbs there that they could come in and they would eat in the side of the bulb, and they would take that flower out of the middle because it was a tender part. So, you know, it's a delicacy.
Right.
And, you know, deer, the same thing. You know, how many times we've heard over the years, oh, they were just about to bloom, and they go out and they're all gone. Yeah. So, you know, tulips, they kind of are a delicacy that way. So they can be temperamental.
Now, you grow them here, and we were talking about soil. So a lot of gardeners around here, we have clay. And so when they put the bulbs in, if they don't improve the soil, it's essentially just a big clay pot that they're dropping their bulbs in, correct?
That's right. Yeah, you've got to have that drainage. You know, you can dig that hole and put them in there, but if that hole holds water, yeah, it's kind of a waste of time.
Now we get people that are asking, say, you know, they plant them. Should they lift them and store them, or
No.
is it better to
No, you know,
someone to dig them up and store them and
someone to do,
replant them
but-
in the fall?
But you know, tulips you can leave in and they'll come back.
Yeah.
You know, they are a perennial. It's just a matter of after a few years, if you don't dig them, they're probably going to go away. But then again, you're going to have to remember to dig them and replant them.
Right.
So you know, it's as in any plant, which it depends how much work you want to
Right.
put into it. And really, a lot of it's the care of
Right, I
of
was
the
just going to
flower.
ask. Yep.
Yeah, so tulip, let's pretend this is tulip. I'm not going to rip it apart, but so after it's finished blooming, one of the best things you can do is snap that flower off I'm not going to do that because I don't know that I can get that back on, but you take that flower, because there's a seed pod in there, and that seed pod, there's hundreds of seeds in the seed pod, and it's really a beautiful when you let that seed pod go, because that
pretty,
seed pod
yes.
grows. But what happens is all the energy from the plant goes up into that seed pod for the seed production. So what we do is we go through and we snap that flower off right here, right below right at the top. And we call them Marie Antoinette tulips. So that you'll go out there and there's
Off with their heads.
off with their heads. So there's no flowers out there. But then all of the energy goes back down into the bulb for a bigger bulb. So if you don't do that, you can reduce the size of your bulb by about a third.
Really?
So you really, it's important that in your own yard, when that's done blooming, just snap that seed pod off right at the very
And
top.
leave all the rest of the stem. And
Leave
all
the rest of the stem, and then
all
you
the
just
foliage.
leave it there. And about 5 weeks after it's done blooming, 5 to 6 weeks, you go out and you give it a tug, and a lot of times it'll release from the bulb. But that's
That
about how
foliage
long.
is going to yellow out and brown out.
It's going to
and-
yellow
'cause
out,
it's
brown out.
Taking all of that nutrients
And that's when
feeding
your
it back
bulb's
into the bulb.
growing, is in May. For us, so all that energy goes down. Because if you go out now, there's when the flower's like this, and you pull that up, there's not much of a bulb under there. So those daughter bulbs are forming, but you want all that energy to go back in and form those bulbs. But that happens in May. That's why when we get like a hot day in May, we know that our bulb size is going to be small because the plant's shut down. So those warm days in either April and May are not very good. One, it shortens the length of time they're in bloom, but in May the plant shuts down, and so we like a kind of cool May,
Right.
and then it gradually dies down and we get bigger bulbs.
And you had said something earlier when we were off camera about the seeds in a tulip, and that you can grow the tulip from the seed, but
You can, but
gotta be a
if
little
you got to be
patient.
patient.
How many years?
It's about 7 years. So when the seed pod inside, it's really beautiful because that seed pod will get, they get fairly large, couple inches and around, and they're just really cool looking. And you break them open, and there's hundreds of seeds in there. But yeah, it's about 7 years
Yes.
from the time that seed, you plant that seed to the time you get a flower.
And they're
So-
going to be different, though. They're not
They
going to be
are.
that same color. They're going to
Exactly.
be all kinds of different.
All
their
kinds of
heritage.
difference.
Yeah.
Yep. So
So it's better to buy bulbs.
exactly, yeah, a lot quicker.
So planting bulbs. So I remember years ago when we were doing the TV show, it's like have their noses point to the sky and the bottom of the bulb point to the soil. You really don't do that here, do you? I mean, and the home gardener doesn't have to do that either.
We plant with a machine, so a tractor with a hopper, and we've got a system they use in Holland. So in Holland, when they had urban encroachment in Holland, they used to put it all on the sandy soil. They got kind of pushed onto heavier soils. So what they did is they developed a system where they plant them in nets. It's kind of a long nylon net, and they're like half a mile long. The netting is, and the tulip will grow through that net, but the bulb's contained within that net. So we plant in that netting, and then when it comes time to dig, what we do is we have a machine that comes underneath that net and lifts it up and puts it on top of the ground, and then another one that lifts it up and then splits it open, and then we dump the bulbs out onto the conveyor, and then we haul it into our shed where we separate the bulbs, and then we put them on an air wall all summer long so there's fresh air blowing on the bulbs. So
Which is pretty. We've been out here and
Yeah.
watched you
it's
harvest,
so
which is
cool.
pretty
Yeah.
fascinating.
It's-
So
it really
you can find
is.
that on the Garden Time TV
Yeah, it is
website
really
and our
neat.
archives.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's
fascinating to watch.
amazing because these bulbs are so
They're every which way.
they don't care. They go by gravity and sunlight and heat. and-
Geotropism, they figured out. Now, if hyacinths, I've had experience with hyacinths. If you plant hyacinths upside down, they'll grow upside down. But tulips are a little bit smarter than that. They'll
Well,
figure it
and
out.
tulips and daffodils, I guess,
Daffodils
are the
both,
same. Yeah. So, what about bulb fertilizers? Now, I know a lot of people will buy a bone meal or a bulb fertilizer. Does it truly help in the root growth and the bulb growth?
Bulb fertilizer is good.
Okay.
It's not too high in nitrogen. You don't want a lot of nitrogen because you don't want a long that long growth. They usually like a 4-12-12 or something like that, a little bit less nitrogen. Experience with bone meal. Bone meal's changed over the years. It used to have all the marrow in it and stuff. It doesn't anymore. Just check the pH of your soil. I think is the best thing to do. Make sure it's not too acidic,
And then
or one way or the other.
When
Yeah.
is the timing on that? Like pre-bloom, after bloom? When should you put the fertilizer down?
I fertilize when you plant.
Oh.
The other thing is when they first, if you don't dig them, and you don't know where they are in your yard. But when they first stick their noses out in January, well, normally January, this year maybe February or March, that's a good time to just put a little bit granular on top.
And that brings up something, because, you know, they come up so early. You get a nice day and they start coming up. And so do you worry, should I cover them? Or they're so smart, they're not going to really come up until it's time?
They're smart. Tulips, you know, you get snow. Well, I always figured if I wanted snow, if it was going to get cold and we were going to get that wind, I want a snow cover, because the snow is just like a blanket over the top of them. So no, they're from where they're from, they're fine. Tulips do really well in our conditions here, even whether it snows, ice. They
Yeah,
hold up really
you
well.
actually had some ice pictures from, I think, 3 or 4 years ago when we
Yeah.
had an ice storm. And that early growth, which freaks people out because, and it was just coated in ice and they seem to come through fine, right? It's
Right.
those first leaves are very protective.
Yeah, and I've seen even when we're in bloom, have a hard frost and the tulips all lay down. And by midday, when everything thaws out, they stand right back up. You'll even see it like if your vase runs out of water. Just recut the ends, put water in it, and put them back in, and they stand back up. Tulips are like the only flower that continue to grow after you cut them. So they're
pretty wild.
Pretty wild, pretty smart. But tulips, daffodils, don't combine them. So well, you can, but you've got to. With the daffodils, they put a sap out. So if you go out and pick daffodils and tulips and put them in the same vase, you're going to have trouble with your tulips. They're going to collapse because the tulips try to suck up that sap and it plugs them up. And so they can't get the water they need. So if you want to combine the two, freshen the daffodils, put them in a separate vase overnight, combine them the next morning.
It's okay to plant them in the ground together,
yeah.
just not as the
Yeah,
cut
cut
flower,
flower.
in the same vase.
Yeah.
And I've heard that by putting daffodils next to your tulips, daffodils deer tend to shy away from. Deer will eat anything, but I've heard, I don't know if it's true or not, that you plant some daffodils in amongst your tulips that will sometimes keep deer, have them look elsewhere, like your roses. As well.
It was grazed down the whole
Yeah.
perennial bed until I find something you like. So.
Are there other rules for cut flowers for tulips?
You know, you hear all sorts of things. I think the biggest thing is you need a clean base without any, clean them out and clean water. Just fill it up and make sure they don't run out of water. You know, you might just change the water out if it's
No
a couple
aspirin,
days.
no-
No aspirin, no vodka, no pennies, no none of that.
How long should you expect?
You get about a week
Yeah.
from a cut flower. You know, depending on where you have it. I mean, if you get them from us, they should last a week.
Yeah.
Let me put it that way. If they've traveled through the system and you get them somewhere else, they might not last a week, but
But I noticed
Here
too
are
is that when
fresh.
you sell cut flowers, you sell them, the bloom is very tight.
it's tight. We call it green bud stage. So when we pick them, sometimes you can't even tell what color they are yet. And then we bring them in and we hydrocool them. So which means we sleeve them. We put a sleeve on them, and then we put them in water at like 33 degrees, cold water, because we want to bring down their transpirations and cool them down. And that just slows them all down, and they last a long time. We've had them over in the cooler for 2 weeks while we're waiting for orders, but they last a long time. And then we'll bring them out here, and there might not even be any color on them, but they open up. I mean, the color comes. It's same with the daffodils. We pick them in with a pencil stage before they even split open, and that's when we did daffodils. That's the stage we picked them.
Yeah. It's so fun to watch them, though, to just watch them open up and see that whole process. It's really fun at home.
And like you're saying, the stems get longer
And
they
while
do.
they're in the vase. We're like, that didn't used to be
No.
there.
Yeah, it changes.
Yeah.
That changes the whole thing.
Right.
Only flower that does that.
Oh, that's
So as far as pests, I know at home we're putting out slug bait. Is that the biggest pest that you have to worry about with tulips, or are there other ones, or are there? I mean, they seem to be pretty tolerant of everything.
They're
so.
pretty tolerant. You know, some of the issues that we struggle with, of course, is if it's too wet in the field, they'll drown out, and in sections of the field, and we continually work on that. Botrytis. So botrytis is a big one for us.
So that's a mold.
That's a mold, and they call it fire blight, and they call it fire blight because it can actually spread across your whole field overnight. And so we monitor for that. We'll actually walk the field, look for fire heads. So if it's a white kind of mold on the ends of the leaves is how it'll first show up. but if it's not addressed and you don't take care of it, it'll spot your flowers, and then it'll do damage to your whole plant. It's not good.
Weakens the bulb.
Weakens the bulb. So we really watch for that. The other one we get, and we rogue a little bit for it, is the virus tulips. So those are known often as the Rembrandt tulips. So they're exotic streaks through them, and in the 1600s, that was what Rembrandt painted, was these beautiful tulips with streaks through them. It's actually a virus, and it causes those streaks, and it weakens the bulb, and aphids move it. They're the vector for that. They'll move it from tulip to tulip. So we try to rogue those out, so that there's not, we don't spray for the insect. We rogue the tulips out so that they don't spread it from tulip to tulip. But
And the one thing we always tell people is that if you find a virus, if you find a mold in the garbage, don't put it in your compost.
the virus tulip, take it in your house and enjoy it. It's really beautiful. The other one, make
Right,
sure you
and
put
then-
it in the garbage.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we try to get the bulb out too. But it'll come back. The virus it's just because it'll spread to your other tulips and weaken them.
And so for the botrytis, it's just a fungicide if you see it at home.
If you see it, actually get rid of it.
Just pull it.
Just pull it. Pull it, because it'll show up as a white mold on the end of the leaf, and get it out and just go throw it in the trash. Because it just, what are you going to spray on it anymore? It just
better,
rogue it.
yeah.
Yeah.
And it's just spores that are like airborne. that are
Airborne.
Just,
Yeah.
just gonna kinda
Yeah.
spread.
Just spread. So.
So as far as, planting, when they're done, obviously in our area, I don't mess with them, except every few years I dig and I'm surprised at how much they've multiplied. And then I grab a handful and throw them somewhere else in the yard. Is there a time when people should be digging?
No. No. Really, the end of May, early June, if you want to move your bulbs, that would be the time to do it. Wait till the foliage is all the way dried down, and then before that comes off, you might want to just dig them out. Now, some people want to dig them out before that because they want to plant annuals or they want to plant a garden there. Take them out, but take the bulb with it. Take the bulb and stem together and put them in a tray and let them dry down. But that's going to take a little bit of the bulb quality away. So it's best if you can just leave them alone until they're completely dried down, and then go move them if you're going to move them at that time. Some people dig them and put them in their garage and then replant them. I say just replant them, because you know how many calls we get to say, "Oh, I just found these bulbs." This time of year, I just found these bulbs, and is it too late to plant?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
And you guys ship in September, correct?
we ship in September, October. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's when people will find them. And that's the time to plant while the soil's
Is-
still a little warm?
You want that soil temperature below 65 degrees. So if you have a warm fall, you want to wait and delay planting, because your disease pressures are higher with that warmer temperature. So it's best if that soil temperature is cooled down, and then plant.
How late can you plant?
I always say Christmas.
Really? That's
So
it?
well, we had one year out here.
Wow.
If you remember, 2019, I think, was the year that it rained all fall. And
Can't get a tractor in the field.
we couldn't. We had half of our field planted, and we couldn't get in the field, and we ended up taking a grass seed field out and planting the rest of it. It was close to Christmas before we got the field in. It was awful. That doesn't happen very often, but it can happen.
How much does that delay if people don't get their bulbs in? Is it delay it significantly or not?
No,
at
it
all?
depends where you've got it stored. If you've got it stored where it's already got the pre-chilled, once they get a certain amount. So, for example, when we force tulips, we have to put them in cooler at 45 degrees for 13 to 15 weeks. It's like a recipe book. Once you hit that, then they just need amount of warm temperature, and then you'll have a flower. So it's the same here. If we get warm weather, that field's going to bloom like really quick. But you have to have warm weather.
Right.
And we just haven't had the warm weather.
Yeah.
So we're way behind. But once that temperature comes, you'll be out there, almost be able to watch those tulips grow out there and pop. But you just need that warm temperature. And that's the thing this year is, Mother Nature just isn't cooperating very well. This.
So, with bulbs, we're talking planting them in the ground, but, they can also be done in like permanent fixtures in a container. Like mixed containers on patios, is that a good place for them if
It-
you're worried about drainages?
If you're worried about drainage, the thing is that's kind of its own little microclimate, own little. It's when even when you top those bulbs, that container's probably going to dry out a little faster than it would out in the soil.
Right.
So you have to be. The bulbs are going to be smaller,
Right.
and so next year will they be as good? Maybe not. Maybe. So.
I always
It
do it
works.
just because I love that surprise. And I'm not really looking for the next year, but I just love them because it's like that I don't know, that spring surprise right on the
Yeah.
Yeah,
deck.
put a little layer of tulips
Yeah.
or bulbs down, and then
Yeah.
put some annuals on top. And in
Yeah.
the spring, you're pleasantly
Oh, there you
surprised with
go.
what comes up through your pansies or primroses
Yeah.
in your
'Cause I
pots and
forget.
containers.
That's true.
Yeah.
So you offer your bulbs online all year long, so people could, or I know that a lot of times if people wait too late, you sell out of.
Right, and we'll
certain
open
varieties.
that up here in early March for bulb sales for next fall. And then usually towards the end of, or middle of October, we shut that down. But we've already got a bulb order for next year. Came in the mail last week, in the mail. It's awesome,
Congratulations.
yeah, thank you.
Yeah. So, but it's not just tulips. You guys offer.
We have other, we used to grow a lot of daffodils. We don't grow daffodils like anymore. But we have hyacinths, crocus, some other things, just to extend that bloom time, because it's so nice. I mean, the crocus are already blooming, the iris reticulata are blooming, so it's kind of the things we like to see in the
Right.
yard. So it's kind of that anticipation, and the smell of daffodils, I love the smell. So
It is. It's
the
a spring smell.
fragrance.
Yes, and it's a sign of spring.
It
Yes,
is.
it
Like I was
really
saying
is.
earlier, it's like when you
Definitely.
start seeing those bulbs coming up and they start to bloom, there's like,
Yeah,
we've made it through winter.
exactly.
So Barb, thanks for all those tips because we have to I have all that memories of how to do that, but we want to come and enjoy them. So what should we do to come and enjoy them?
So, well, come out here and enjoy them. So our tickets, one of the things with COVID, we've gone to online ticketing. So you need to buy your ticket online. And by doing that, you're not going to sit in traffic to get
is
in here.
good.
So that's the experience to get here is so much better. For years we heard, oh, I'll never come on a weekend because I have to sit in line in traffic for hours. No, the online ticketing has eliminated that. And it's better. And so we give you details there if you want to come and enjoy the sunrise. We sell a limited number of sunrise passes, so come out and you can take the sunrise over the Cascades out here with the tulips.
Lovely.
Beautiful. We have drone passes, so one of the things people always want to know, can I bring my drone out?
Whoa.
So we sell a limited number of drone passes in the morning before we open up. So there aren't people out there,
Wow.
so you can come out and get that drone shot. We've got a senior pass. We've got if you've got a group of friends, we've got tickets that the price goes down a little bit, so a group discount rate.
Oh, nice.
So we're doing some things like that.
We've done hot air balloons.
Hot air balloons. So
Yeah.
we've got hot air balloons out here. We do tethers. So there's Portland Rose. He flies in the morning. He takes off from here, and then we've got a couple other balloonists that come out and they'll do tethers at the edge of the field.
Oh, lovely.
It's beautiful. Absolutely.
The photos are
beautiful.
amazing
The photos
when you see
are,
that,
yeah,
yeah.
it really is. And some of the safety things we do is we do a top tether. It's not just off of the basket. So we're really cognizant that the wind and things like that could happen in the spring. So these guys, we meet with them. They're on top of it. They do a great job. We use those big concrete blocks so that they're not picking things up and moving around. So.
And that, and sometimes you mentioned the wind. I know in the past there have been cancellations because of the wind. Once again, the website is
Website.
Wooden Shoe is.
And the hot air balloonists, they actually have a number you can call to see if they're out here and open. And they take thousands of calls from people wanting to know if they're flying. But it's really that. Last year we had a lady that was 99 years old get on that. She'd never been up in one before, and we got her in, and she did a tether. And I mean, there's
That's
just things
amazing.
like that are really, really fun.
So after they book their tickets and they're coming out, is there anything they should be bringing with them? You have all the food and things here, but just to make sure that their experience.
Boots. Heels, really, you can leave the heels at home, although we see them out here. One of my iconic shots that I really like is years ago I was walking through the field and I look over and there's these high heel ruby red shoes sticking out through the flowers. It was a beautiful shot because I started taking pictures, but So you never know what you're
Right.
going to see out here, but you don't need to bring those to wander around unless they're a photo prop. But usually boots, just, layer, because you never know what the weather's going to be out here.
Right.
And your camera.
And your well, your
Yeah,
phone,
sunscreen.
your phone or camera.
Yeah.
Umbrella and sunscreen, just in case.
Yeah, you never
depending
know.
on which goes. And I know you guys incorporate the wine into the
Yes.
tulip fields, and you used to do. Are you
A couple
doing?
tastes, yeah. You come in and get a couple tastes. So when you come try our wine. It's like I say, the Albarino's a little bit different. We've got Maraschal Foch, the Pinot Noir Rosé. We've got some different wines. So come out, some sparkling, a sweet Tempranillo that's really popular. So come try the wine.
You have everything for big kids and little kids.
Big and little kids.
After kind of a long, wet, dreary, cold winter.
So our food vendors this year, we've got some. Just watch our website and watch our social media, because we're working with them to do signature food items. Not just not just your
curly fries,
or something, but
Right.
but a twist on that.
Nice.
So we've met with them all, doing some creative stuff. So we're hoping they come up with some good ideas, kind of like what French Prairie did. That's real big. The signature drink with, that's like 1,000 calories or something. but just
You're gonna walk it off in
different,
the
yeah, exactly.
Definitely.
Little bit different treats. So we're excited about that. Well, we're working with the U.S. Postal Service this year. They're going to release a postage stamp, a tulip postage stamp. And so they're coming out here. They're flying out from D.C. and they'll have a stage, and they are releasing tulip postage stamps.
Stay
And
tuned.
yeah, so stay
Wow.
tuned for that one. If you're a stamp collector, apparently you buy them and you can get your autograph of the release on it.
Wow.
We'll find out.
Yeah.
So they have a stage ordered, and that's in early April. We're going to have
That's
that
cool.
out here.
What's the other tease that you're saying? There's another reveal coming up.
Oh, a reveal. So we've got that little Ferguson tractor that last year was the bumblebee or the bee. And we do a contest every year of what are we going to paint it. And so that'll be probably the first week we open. We'll reveal what actually won. I think we had 4 things that were the top 4, and so we've painted that, and so we'll cover it up and do a big reveal of what we painted it.
So check the website for that too.
Yeah,
if you're not here.
Yeah,
Okay.
last year was a bee. That was real
That's
fun. A lot of
cute.
people wanted
Oh.
us to keep it the bee, and it was really cute. But the idea is to change it up every year.
And what's the website address to go to? Because there's so much great information.
Oh, sorry. It's woodenshoe.com. It's really difficult.
You made
Woodenshoe.com.
it easy. Thank
Yeah.
you.
And your Facebook page. You're all over social media.
Yes.
And I'll tell you what, in the cold, dreary days, even in spring, just go there and look at pictures. I mean,
that is true.
it does so much for your mental health. It's incredible.
It really does. We get a lot of photographers out here, and photographers that are just, they put my work to shame. I use my phone anymore. I leave my big camera inside, because the shots they get are brilliant, especially the sunrise shots. The sunrise to me is the prettiest time to be out here. It's just, there's something about watching that sun come up and the brilliance of the flowers, and it's unreal.
Well, Barb, thank you so much for
This has been
letting
fun.
us come out and visit with you. This has always been one of our favorite places. I remember our very first Garden Time show was taped here at the Fields, and this is it's taking
couple years ago.
Just a couple.
But it is such an icon, these fields, for people to come and bring their families for years and for generations. So you're seeing grandchildren of whose parents were children and grandparents were children when they first came out. So I think it's just fantastic. So as we mentioned before, if you want more information, go to woodenshoe.com. We'll have links at gardentime.tv. If you're listening to this and you want to see it, you can actually go to gardentime.tv. We have a video portion of this. We thank you so much. We thank our sponsors for letting us do this, and we look forward to seeing you when we come back. Who knows where we're going to pop up next? So, but thanks for watching, and happy gardening.
At Portland Nursery, we believe that gardening is a creative endeavor that enriches our experience, enlivens the spaces around us, and provides a safe haven for the mind. Portland Nursery has everything you need to make your space feel unique, Inviting and exciting. From houseplants and hedges to trees, tools, veggies, and herbs, our selection is always growing and changing, just like you. Come visit us today at 50th and Stark, 90th and Division.
Here at Capital Subaru, we are family. From you, our customers, our coworkers, and even our actual family members work here. This is my son, Casey. We're generations ahead of the competition, and we're always working to keep you and your family moving.
We're here for you. We make it easy to join our Capital Subaru family.
All the support you need, from sales and financing to service and parts. We'll be here for you for generations to come.
And generations after that.
I'm Blake,
And I'm Casey. We make it easy to join our Capital Subaru family.
where it's
Your way on the Parkway.